Welcome to Accela training for Pinellas County. Workflows. This video will explain the process of workflows and their functionality, as well as record statuses. This is the workflow of the last record that I created. A workflow is the process that a record uses until it's completed. You can think of it as the record's life cycle. A workflow is a series of tasks, and each task has what's called a task status. Some examples of task statuses are waiting on applicant, in progress, completed, comments, and many more. The number of statuses per task can vary and will depend on your department and the specific workflow that your record is using. Tasks can be divided into completed, in progress, and up next. We can always see all tasks by expanding these sections. This is the first task of this workflow. Workflows directly control the status of the whole record, which is called the record status. We can see this at the top as submitted. As we move through the workflow, it will control the status of the record. Workflow statuses control how the workflow will operate and activating other steps in the workflow. Workflow statuses can activate a new status and move forward. They can select a status that keeps the current task active or even reactivate an already completed status. At the top of my tasks, I have control buttons. The primary two being Submit, which submits my selected status, and Assign, which allows me to assign the task to a user and sets it on their tasks. To assign a task, simply select the department and user from the dropdowns. Should I want to apply this task to myself, I can click on the current user above the dropdown and select Submit. I can go to My Tasks and see how I now have the task assigned to me. Should I want to go directly into the workflow task, I simply click on it and have been placed directly into the workflow task. Let's apply a status. I can see the available statuses by selecting this dropdown. In this case, I have two statuses. If I need to denote a need for additional information, I can select Needs Additional Info. Notice how the initialization step is still active. I can select the other status and take note of the difference in how the workflow behaves. I can open up the workflow and see how initialization has moved to the completed task section, and submittal review and fees has been activated. Once a task has moved to completed, its status cannot be changed. There are other fields that we can see on the workflow tasks. We have a comment field that also has the option for standardized comments. We can see these standardized comments by clicking on Standard Comment. To add a comment, simply click on the blue hyperlinks to add them to the workflow comment. I can still add or edit the comment after having added it. On the right, we have additional fields that include who the task is assigned to and when it was last assigned. In addition, we have fields that allow us to mark who completed the task, which will default to your current user. Finally, we have a checkbox that shows the comment on ACA, which is the public access portal for Accela. Let's go to the next step in the workflow by selecting Accepted. Now, while every workflow is different, they do have the ability to open up multiple tasks simultaneously. For example, in the case of plan reviews, where multiple departments have to complete a plan review before moving on. Let's see what happens when we activate multiple tasks. Accela will now allow me to select which tasks will activate simultaneously using these checkmarks. I can set them as active and even make them required for this particular record. As we can see, this particular workflow defaults to requiring all of them. Let's deactivate a few. Notice how the In Progress section now has 3 simultaneous tasks. Let's go through and process them like we've been doing. I've now completed my simultaneous tasks. Notice how once I've completed those simultaneous tasks, I can continue and only one task is going to be active. The final function about workflows that can be done is returning to a previous point in the workflow. I've gone ahead and selected a status that put me further back in the workflow. As you can see, plans distribution has been reactivated even though it was already processed. We can see this as well as the entire history of the workflow by selecting the history on the left. Or using the shortcut at the top. This allows us to see a log of every completed task for the record, including the selected status, the date it was last completed, and the user that did so.